But you know, we're gonna stick to the real topic here, guys. And the real topic is casuals versus elitists. Okay, Roca hates casuals. Okay, and he's here to roast the casuals.
Whoa.
That's not what you told me this was gonna be.
And meanwhile, we have somebody else to back up casuals?
No, it's not necessarily to back up the casuals. It's to expose and call out the raid scene, the raid community, and raids in general. It is AngryZorric. Thank you very much for coming on, man. I really appreciate that. And, you know, honestly, I think it would be good if you kind of opened it up and just let us know, like, what's the deal? Like, what's the deal you have with raids? I mean, I understand you've had a few bad experiences. And we really want to hear about that because, you know, we want to slap these toxic fucks out of here. Okay?
You have
just lay it down.
2.5 minutes for your opening statement.
Oh, man. It pretty much comes down to it feels like the raid community, and as people know, they always say it's inside of this bubble inside of this community, and we can't get in. There's like this door that they have to get in, a bar that has to be met, and they have to follow the benchmarks, they have to follow the speed of the raids, and they have to understand every intricacy inside of the raid. And in my experience, going into a raid, it's not been good for me. It's not been good for a lot of people that come and talk to me about it. It's not good for those that are big achievement hunters such as myself. And when we try to go into this thing, there's options to the casual player to avoid doing raids. And so at the end of the day, we avoid the crowd, and that avoiding has turned us very against raids in general. So when we try to join a raid, and the first thing we're met with is this criticism about how we play or what we play, or not meeting those benchmarks, we end up just leaving. There's no reason to stay there. And I feel like when you're more of a casual player such as myself, time is of the essence. I can farm more gold outside of raids than inside of raids, so why would I do it? I can spend my time by myself and not get that criticism and still be able to get some of those rewards. But at the end of the day, I feel like a lot of those players, they cut themselves out, but at the same time, the raid community sort of pushes them out at the same time. And so we just get to this point where we call them elitists and toxic and things like that, yet we still go watch them on streams and we think it's great. But at the same time, we're never going to join that because, like, one time I was joining, I was called one of the worst players in the game, and it blew my mind. You know, we're talking, I have over 30,000 achievement points, 10,000 hours. I can farm 1,000 gold in a week or in a night. I mean, but I'm one of the worst players because my necro wasn't running that day. I just joined in. I wasn't planning on running. A friend convinced me. I joined in. I took another guild with me, and I forgot to put Epi on my bar before we went in. And so I was one of the worst players. And I just remember arguing with these guys, as they also called out my friend because he got downed early and his rotation was off for the Might. We ended up still beating the boss, and what blew my mind is we got the result we wanted, but I still got slammed for the journey there. And to me, I think it just left the mark. And I mean, I don't know. I don't think I'm the worst player, but you know, that's the impression left on me. It's just, that's not worth my effort. It's not worth my time and that stuff. Was that 2.5 minutes? I don't want to.
You were a little over time. I didn't want to say anything because you're on a roll. But we'll give Rock a little extra time too, just to make up for it.
Wait, oh God! Wait, just for the record, guys, this is not actually a formal debate.
Is this turning into a 1v1?
Just so we know,
I thought that's why I'm here. I thought I'm just here for timekeeping.
No, this is
no.
This is
okay.
This is, as usual, a very casual and friendly conversation. We're not doing a proper debate, guys. All right, you know, we're here just to have a good chat about
Roca.
it. You know?
This is stupid. Storm out. Go ahead and take it out.
But I mean, yeah, sure. Like we can kind of play with the meme a bit. Rocco, I mean, what would your response be to that?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm sorry that you seem to have been met with assholes, quite frankly. But the thing is, I'm not sure. First of all, I don't think the 30K achievement point thing really has anything. Doesn't at all matter when it comes to rating and stuff like that. Used to be like back in dungeon days and stuff. People used to look at that, and it used to be a bit of a meme that like people come into your group and they have a lot of AP because they're like achievement hunters, but they don't actually ever play the game on that way. So I don't know. I wouldn't really rely on that. But I mean, the thing is that a lot of people are the way that you are describing. But I wouldn't say the entire community is that way. Like, I think that you have a fair chance of joining a squad and not being treated like this. But the other thing is, now you went into a raid. You said people go into raids and they are being criticized. And that's basically enough for them to leave the raid and like put the whole content away and like go like, well, what do you expect? Do you expect to go into a raid and be asked to do hardcore stuff and like you underperform and then you get told, yes, you underperformed, and you go out of the raid, you go like, well, guess that's raiding. Guess they're all assholes. Guess wasn't my fault. I mean, if you're underperforming and people tell you, then I guess it's the kind of content that's for people who then take that criticism and try to work on themselves rather than basically giving up and going out and saying, well, asshole community.
Well, I would say that there are also... Yeah, I mean,
Still
yeah,
some time,
well,
Roca.
that was a bit of a slam there. I got to say it, but I think the key is that I think there are definitely some toxic pricks in the raids, especially you'll find this in pug groups as well. Especially if sometimes the leader will set up a squad and they've got no clue, all right, and they'll just be flaming, going crazy, right? But
I hate that.
Yeah. But I think the key here, I think a good point worth making, is that there are avenues where you can actually avoid all of this criticism as well, right? Suppose you don't want to have the experience. I mean, hell, dude, I've beaten. I'm missing something like 7 legendary insights or something like that. I think I missed a few more because I actually forgot to loot a few chests. Kind of stupid. But I get kicked from pugs sometimes, right? People kick me. You know, they say, well,
yeah, same. People kick me from subs as well. I've been kicked just recently.
I am not. There is no way I'm going to deny. Deny that there are some toxic situations in raids that it will be foolish to deny that. However, I do think on the whole the community does kind of want to help out with people, and there's stuff there are structures in place that kind of help out with this stuff, right? Stuff like training guilds exist, and you can go through and you won't encounter this rage, right? If your friend goes into downstate and the might rotation goes wrong on Druid River, like that isn't going to be a problem in a training guild. They're going to go, hey, that's cool, that's all right, and they'll try and explain, well, this is you got to watch out for this mechanic, otherwise you're going to get screwed, and stuff like that, right? Or if you don't have epi, they're going to go, it's okay, don't worry about it, like we can fix it and we can sort that out. So I think there are avenues to. There are these avenues to get into raids without encountering the toxicity, I think,
I think that's something I think we have a problem with this discussion, actually, because I don't think we have properly defined what this debate is about. So I'm trying to understand now. It's so AngryZorric, you had was it just one bad experience with raiding, or was it? It was
actually I've been in groups that haven't been successful. I've killed 4 raid bosses or completed 4 raid bosses. And 2 of those experiences, that second to last one was the biggest one. The one after that, I actually did do my job, but the problem was I wasn't as high as DPS as another person who could be in the group, so I got kicked. And the commander himself, the person or the squad leader themselves of the raid, was actually not very good. And like Teapot said, some people just start the group and do that. And so I was just like, man, this is a lot of work to try to keep myself into this. And then I just lost interest completely, to be honest.
So I guess the question is okay, like we can't say that raids are bad because raids are content that bring people to it, and it's what you bring to it that makes it an enjoyable experience or not. So the question is, do raids tend to breed a kind of I guess elitism that puts people off? And I think that it is possible that it does in some ways, but there's ways to avoid it. Like MightyTeapot was just saying, like you could easily. I mean, there are far more casuals in the game than there are people who raid. Like I don't know, like 10 times as many probably. And these casuals, I mean, I think the go-to thing is for people to pug, right? Pug a raid, because that's the thing you have to do. You go and looking for group. You're like, hey, I want to join this raid. But seeing as though there's 10 times more casuals than there are elitists, don't you think that, I mean, it's hard to do it, but it should be easier to find like-minded people than unlike-minded people to go into a raid with? You know?
Now I'm gonna be a little bit toxic here, right? I'm just gonna throw out there that pugging is quite frankly the easiest way to start a raid, right? It's at the same time probably the worst way to start a raid. Yet casuals sometimes feel like they're kind of entitled to just join something and basically get it done. So instead of going rather like the harder route and looking for a training Discord, they'll just go into pugs and they'll get flamed because obviously they've never done the stuff, right? They've never really prepared for it. Then they get flamed, they get kicked out, and then they're kind of pissed off that they have been met with toxicity when really kind of they should have prepared for it, right? They should have gone the harder route. And like, I mean, I didn't start from going casuals, going into pugs and like suddenly being good, right? So if you go into a pug raid as your first experience, that kind of means that you've done it wrong, that you didn't do your homework before you went into a raid.
But I mean, that's I guess the point, because like when you're doing pug raids, unless the looking for group says, look, this is a training raid. If the looking for group says it's a training raid, you're doing the right thing. You're going to a pug training raid because you've never done it before. It's really, unless you're in a guild that you're doing guild runs with, it's very unlikely that a normal pug is going to be supportive of somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, right?
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, for people who want to learn how to raid, the correct way to do it is to find a training raid, maybe organize their own friends who also are not very learned in raids yet, or like maybe some friends who are good at raids but are very supportive of you. But unfortunately, there's no way of there's no real in-game way of finding those things easily. The only easy thing to find is the pugs, and the pugs, not more often than not, but the pugs could be people who are very mean. and so,
and the thing is also they are, and in 90% of the cases I'm gonna say that they are probably gonna be toxic fucks who are gonna tell you to get the fuck out of the way.
But that's the spectrum. That's the spectrum. We're not talking. I think the problem with raids is that it attracts a kind of competitiveness for like, look at me, look what I've done, look what I do. And so when we talk about casuals jumping in, it's not usually the ones that, come home, do their dailies and get off that are jumping into raids and finding this toxicity. It's the ones that are toxic and want the free rewards to jump in. So we have toxic casuals jumping in with toxic people or elitists inside of Fractal.
Everybody's toxic.
And it's just the way it is. And so, but sadly, it floats into raids. You know what I mean? So over time, we get more and more toxic people into the raid until there's a flush, right? When people are like, raids are stupid, ArenaNet doesn't know what they're doing, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of this toxicity leaves, and it leaves these streamers open to have, like, look at raids. Raids are great. And then you see some of the casuals that aren't toxic go, I'll try raids. And then we have this nice burst, especially when a raid comes out. We have this nice burst of people coming in. But sadly, that toxicity comes back. And for people like me, it's like, do I want to deal with that? Like, this new raid looks cool. I want to do the underworld too, but all those toxic people. And I feel like raid, that's where the bad rap comes from. Is the toxic people going into this area of the game, making it toxic, doing all this damage, but then the damage control, such as streamers or even YouTubers or people who make benchmarks, they get this force of toxicity from the casuals that just it doesn't make sense at the end of the day. But it's like I have to choose a side. Am I going to be for raids or be against it? So
you think the benchmarks and stuff is a bad idea too then?
No, I actually like benchmarks, but the problem is how the community sort of absorbs it, and then says you have to hit this mark, which just isn't true. You don't have to hit that mark. It's good to see those. Oh my goodness!
Yeah. You had it easy until now.
Yeah.
Finally.
Oh guys, I forgot I had an appointment today.
Let's see if I can fix this. But yes.
Hey guys.
Yes, I was a little quiet there because Nike's managed to get his Skype working, boys. Woo. And here we go. I just want to say though, before we hear some of Nike's, I actually completely agree with you, Zorric, 100%. Right, it is actually a big problem with certain members of the raid community misinterpreting kind of the requirements on how to do raids and kind of not understanding the correct kind of mentality that is required to do raids as well, right? Like there is no need to be flaming someone if they're doing like 5k DPS less than this person thinks they should be. At the end of the day, it's probably not going to matter, right? In fact, it almost certainly doesn't matter at the end of the day. And you can do the raids with any kind of class composition you want, really, or any kind of variation of all of these various things, right? And yeah, I think there is a bit of a problem. There is a disconnect where you do have these people who kind of bash people for stuff that is not important at all, really. And I think that is actually a big problem. And
I think we could all agree that DPS uptime is the most important thing, right?
Of course, it's all.
You just had to go there.
But I'm actually being serious though, because you just have to definitely not die is the most important thing in a raid, right? You have to not die. Yeah,
and also hit the boss and do your role.
Yeah.
Don't die, hit the boss. You're probably going to be okay.
Raids are a little more complicated than just hit the boss or just keep your DPS up. So it only makes sense. Really Same thing in dungeons. If you can keep your DPS up, of course the boss is just going to melt. Tequaddle in the open world is another good example. High DPS upkeep, get the down people up so that DPS keeps rolling and stuff. It's all over the game, but in raids it's really focused on 10 people getting it done. So
yeah. So I think we're all in agreement. I guess we could just finish the tea time right here then.
There we go. We got it down. Okay. Nike, what have you got to say on this topic?
There was one thing I heard before I was on the call from watching the stream, and it was like that people went in, like it seemed like that there were a lot of like the people who are currently anti-raid went into raiding with an open mind and everything was going to be fine, and then they got soured by the awful raid community. But I seem to remember plenty of Reddit posts and forum posts before raids came out where people were already doomsaying and saying it was going to be the death of the game and the death of the community and it was going to be toxic. These people did not go in with an open mind. They were expecting toxicity. They put out that vibe, and that's the vibe they found. So they can't say that they were going into it honestly. They were not looking to have a fun experience from the beginning. Yeah. Or they were looking to have a fun experience as long as it fit within the incredibly narrow definition of what they wanted it to be, or what would have made them happy.
And I think kind of on that note, I think certain players who are new to raids, they kind of think like, well, I can do this however I want. But I think that's I mean, in an ideal world that would be the case, right? But to a certain extent, I think people need to realize that some players are looking for a group that's going to be able to do things very quickly and have high DPS, right? And run these specific classes. And at the end of the day, even if this person's being an asshole, if they want a group full of assholes, they're entitled to a group full of assholes to a certain extent, right? Like if that's who they want to play with, that's who they want to play with. And again, right? If you want to have a more casual experience where you die a few times or whatever, like you're not going crazy, like we're not doing 90% of the benchmark, like if you want to just have a chill time, then you it's kind of you should find a group that wants to have a chill time, right?
I think that's the most important takeaway from all this, though. Actually, it's the rating scene is what it is. You get good things and you get bad things, but if you're a person who wants to raid, wants to enjoy it, and doesn't really know its stuff yet, let's say, you have to be able to know where to join. Like you have to. Probably the best thing to do if you want to be raiding is to make a guild. It's Guild Wars. Make a guild or have a guild. Do a guild raid and get better together. Because then you're sure that the people you're with are the people you want to play with. And it is, I think probably every aspect of the game where there's looking for group involved, except for maybe PvE bounty trains, there's going to be toxicity involved. There's a chance of toxicity involved if you join a group that's not very...
I reckon the open world bounties probably are toxicity. If you kill them in the wrong order, they're going to be pissed at you. And that's not a joke, dude. That's not a joke, okay?
It's starting them early is what I find that is the biggest, oh my goodness, map chat explodes like we can't kill it in 3 minutes.
Yeah,
well, get there a couple minutes late. Oh man, we can't kill the boss in 3 minutes.
I would say then it's not rating's fault. It's joining up with random people on the internet that you don't know who they're like. And like you gotta just do your best to find people that you like to play with.
I do still think that people on pucks they don't have to be assholes, right? I think you can kick somebody from a puck squad without calling him out, without like. At least I try to do so. I kick people from pucks, right? But I try to not be a dick about it.
There's a way of doing it, though. There's a way of doing it, right?
Exactly, and then I think it's much more receivable. Like it doesn't drive you out of the content. Basically, it just drives you out of that particular rate, and then you're maybe told what you could do better or something, and then you can actually work on yourself. So yeah, I do think people should go in there with raids, but with guilds, but. I don't think you have to bash them.
No. And it would be great if every single looking for group has people that is just, a joy to be around. But it's not going to happen. You just got to be careful about that kind of thing. And, hold on a second though. Let's say how many groups out of the looking for groups would be encouraging to help out a player rather than just kick them? Like what's the ratio, do you think?
No, I'd say 9 to 1, maybe. 10% are probably training friendly. I would say it's probably
okay.
It's really low.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably why. Like, there's not a lot of like, let's pull that guy in and just see. Because I remember on EU when I needed that one raid to max out my masteries. I remember finally getting an escort because I knew somebody, but even then they were like, he's a power necro. This ain't gonna work out. And
might have been me actually.
We did get it. Yeah, I think it was you, but we're not gonna talk about that.
Sorry, you deserve it. I'm not sorry. Not sorry.
So do you think?
I
do you think that ratio is much higher than other parts of the game, like fractals or PvP or anything like that?
Well, I think Fractals is probably even more elitist.
Yeah, Fractals is pretty. Because
Fractals is pretty people want their tier 4s done quickly. In 15 minutes, and if they're not done in 15 minutes, you're cutting into their dinner time, and they're pissed.
That's the other thing we haven't talked about is the speed runs. The speed runs. Nike, since he's here, I'm going to call you out for this.
Oh,
so you do these. D&T does speed runs, right? And so when you make these videos, suddenly people think. And I don't know why, I don't know where it comes from, but suddenly Doom can be beat sub 6 every time. And they just absorb that. And then you also see in Fractals, we beat, the challenge mode in this time, and people expect that every time, as though there's no problems that are going to happen during the raid or the Fractal or anything else for that matter. And so we get into this big giant argument of speed over rewards and that kind of thing. And it just even your last video I just remember people going, yeah, we can beat this guy faster now. We can, and I'm just like, calm down. I mean, these guys optimized. They took their time. They learned this. This is what they do. It's like it's their hobby. It's their job of sorts. And they wanted to optimize and see how fast they can beat this. You can't expect that. It's not realistic, but there's a part of the community that absorbs it and then just throws it into that toxicity ball.
And you don't see the 30 or 40 wipes that happened before when it didn't go exactly perfectly.
Yeah.
So
I, for one, have never selectively edited my videos.
Well, it's not selective editing. They just kept trying until they got the right kill, though, right? You know, but and it is a problem.
That's another aspect,
it is a problem. It is.
Like, but that's another aspect, because there are those 40 wipes before you do it, and that might be an aspect of the builds you're using as well. Because if you're doing pure DPS, which is what people think you have to do, you're going to be a little less tanky, and because of that, like for someone who is not DNT, you might not do the mechanics as well as DNT does. And even if you did do it as well as DNT does, you have 30 wipes before you get a perfect run. And as a pug raid, or as any kind of raid, really, you don't want to have, like, yes, you could go for a really fast time, but you want to have you want to beat it every time. You don't want to beat it 1 in 30 times really fast, right?
Yeah.
It depends on what you're looking for, I guess. But yeah,
I remember the division inside of raids. See, I wasn't doing raids, but I talked to a lot of people who were trying to optimize raids for their own group. They're static. And I remember this division being high DPS over utility. And the utility side, where it broke the community, and it was very small, I think. But my buddy was in that group, and when I was talking to him about it, I'm like, "How do you guys do it successfully every time?" They don't bring meta builds. They bring meta utility builds that if something should happen, people go down. They said even if 4 people die in that raid, they'll finish it. They'll finish it even if it takes 10 minutes, because it's better than wiping and then have to run 10 minutes in anyways. So
I feel like I feel like just like there are meta builds for each individual boss, I feel like there should be meta builds for pugging raids. And those meta builds for pugging raids should be a lot more forgiving for people, and still do a lot of DPS, but be a lot more forgiving for people.
We actually talked about this a little bit in my stream earlier today, and somebody actually said something really interesting, which was basically the same thing that you just said, that there's different metas for different kinds of players. So you have like a casual raid clearing meta, and all that meta really means is like the most effective strategy, right? So for a casual player, the most effective strategy might be something that involves easy-to-play classes, safe specs, something that will get the boss done, basically. Well, for a more experienced player who might be looking for the challenge, it would be more like a glass cannon alley, right?
Mm-hmm. If you could play it, it's meta in its own way for you, because you're not going to die on it necessarily, and
the thing also, I think, is that like you can define meta in different ways, right? You can be really rather narrow and say meta is really only the very, very best way you do something. And you could also say, well, meta is more like a guideline, right? Like this boss, power bosses classes are better for this boss. This boss needs Condi classes or something, you know, a bit more healing for this boss is a good call or something.
Well, I would actually go for the very strict definition. I would say that meta is the best way to do it. But here's the thing, right? Unless you're going for a record, you don't care about that, right? You know what I mean? Like that's the important thing here. Unless you are literally going for a record on this boss, you shouldn't care about that, really. Unless you're pushing times, you shouldn't really care about the meta, because it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The meta. So then
the best build changes if you're not going for a record.
But the best build, these things are so nebulous, and it just memes on people and makes people want to run 6 Ellie's on every boss, right? They don't get it. It doesn't. It's people are just weird about it, you know. And people in chat are going, "Oh, power of." Sure, fuck it. Like, you can play power if you want it. It's kind of shit, but you can still play it, and you can kill every boss. Hell, I think I've beaten pretty much every boss, like even some in Wing 5. Well, even some in Wing 5. I haven't really played it. I've beaten like every boss in Wings 1 to 4 on Power Ev, and I was in Exotics as well. I even pugged that on a fresh account, and people didn't know it was me on that, right? You know, it's just Yeah, it's just, what do you? Yeah, people are weird about this stuff. They don't get it.
I do think there's like a difference if like one person who's actually very experienced raider does it, and whether maybe like an entire group of new raiders does it.
We'll have
like
some self-awareness to realize like where you are along the spectrum and select your team comp and your build based on that. I mean, self-awareness is probably like the hardest thing ever, especially for like 12-year-olds. But like, I mean, that's what you need. You have to, at some point, you have to go, all right, this isn't going to work. We can't play with like one Kandi Druid as our only healer in this pug. It's not going to work. Mm-hmm. So
it's acceptance. It's acceptance. You have to accept if you get kicked from a group and they tell you why, and they're sort of like, sorry, we're going to have to kick you because you're running this build. It's not working for us. We're going to pull someone else in. You have to accept the fact that it was you. And a lot of times, like when I got kicked because I was doing short DPS, I accepted that I wasn't, the best DPS necro that's ever come through the door. But at the same time, that I think that's what got me the most is I couldn't accept that. I was like, no, you're kicking me. You're taking some other guy because you think it's going to save you in the long run or something. And that's my mentality. So, but it's acceptance when you're a pug that if you can't do it, you have to understand it's you. You can't do it. And that's why they're probably going to kick you. And some people just can't do that. They just can't.
It's also, unfortunately, a very sad fact that people in pugs generally don't have any understanding of why runs failed. Like, I've been on a Gorswell pug the other day that had no DPS at all, tried to do no updraft and fast CC with terrible DPS. And then the heal druid got egged in last phase, and the commander actually kicked the heal druid for getting egged and blamed on him that they didn't kill it. So like you have this kind of stuff where people are just like completely doing completely stupid stuff, right? They see one mistake and they think that this somehow translates into not being able to kill the boss, and they then kick that person, right? And that's absolutely unfair, and it's horrible. And
yeah. Did you see that Reddit post of the guy who was playing Chrono and got kicked from Samurag because he didn't solo CC? Yeah. He didn't solo CC Samurag's break bar.
Then that's a legitimate problem, right? There, this kind of confuses me, and I think this is such a tricky thing to fix, right? Because even though there are resources out there, like all these metrics are known. Like you can watch Snowcrows do this, like snowcrows.com, QT back in the day. There are all these resources out there, right? But people don't use them, and they don't have any idea what's going on. They got no clue. Like, it's bizarre. They don't understand the raids very well at all, really, and this causes this kind of behavior. This causes this toxic behavior. It's ignorance. Ignorance is causing this to a certain extent, and it causes people to behave in ways that are just stupid, and they think that they're right. That's the worst part. Like, it's just idiot causing this wipe. Get him out, But it's just, they're not addressing the underlying cause, right? And this tendency.
But that's.
This tendency to always want to do the optimal strat that they see, as Zorric said earlier, they see that DNT video, they see that SC video, like, we're gonna do that, I'm excited, man. But it turns out that you actually have to, for a start, grind a bit to do that because it ain't easy, right? And that it's a very aggressive tactic that will cause you to wipe a whole lot. But also, you've got to be on point. Everyone's got to be in sync. You've got to be hitting those big DPS numbers, right? You got to be executing these mechanics perfectly if you want to do these strats, these high-end optimal strats to really get it down. That's just not going to work in a pug group. Even if you had a bunch of really great players, it's not going to work in a pug group, right? Because you don't have that kind of coordination and practice and group synergy at the tactic. It bamboozles me. This community bamboozles me, my friends.
So I think what we got to do is find a way to cure this problem. And Nike, someone mentioned in chat you had a video recently that has overpower builds.
It was like pug friendly builds that like carry super hard, and it was one of Roca's favorite builds.
Yeah, that's when our friendship ended. So I really like you, Nike, right?
So like the like one of the builds, like the one that I'm talking about with Roca, it's short bow camping Soul Beast, Like, so like a perfect short bow axe or dagger torch soul beast gets like, what is it, like 30k, 32k. This does like 1k DPS less, but it literally has a 2-button rotation. So you cannot mess it up as long as you're flanking the boss. And
what if you're not flanking the boss?
Yeah, I was
well, then it loses a lot. But like,
now you're dumbing it down to where
we've all been in
Shapanzi
pugs
can
where
play
you've seen weavers doing 5k DPS, and you're like, this guy could literally get 15k DPS camping short bow and literally only auto attacking on a soul beast. Like, he could get 15k DPS. So
I think that's what we gotta do. I think we gotta like make more of your videos. Make more, like, just for every class.
I actually agree.
At the same time, I disagree that this build should be enough to even clear raids.
Wait,
Like,
what?
You think that's expected of him? I think
so
you need.
here he is. Here's the elitist. Here he comes out.
There it is.
Yeah.
I think you need in a raid at least that little bit of difficulty. That somebody cannot just go in there and auto.
Well, I mean, there's still
mechanics though, right? There's mechanics.
Auto-kill mechanics and stuff like that.
I can't like this build ever because it dumps down the class to where you literally only auto attack. And I don't even want to know how many of the people who play that build actually don't flank. I don't want to know how many people actually don't flank because that's the one thing you have to know.
But even then, they would do better DPS than the 5k Weaver. Like, even if they were just like shooting the boss in the face.
Reminds me of like Bomb Kit NG.
Oh, but the next thing is, you could just play the class the good way, right? It's not a hard rotation. Soulbeast used to be one of the easy to play classes before Shortbow came along. So now you're like saying, well, I can't press 5 buttons, so I'm gonna press 2, and where like if this is the base mentality to do raids, I think the person who is picking this build, playing this rotation, unable to go to the golem for 5 minutes or hit me up in whispers to tell him what to do differently.
So now, this person can't do that. This is the person who would copy the Snowcrow's build and then camp dagger auto.
Roca, for the first time, your true elitism has shown itself.
So that's not in raids.
Yeah, because now you're like, fine, I'll have pugs with me as long as they train first and get as good as me, and then they could come into my pug. But they can't just skip that and go on a build that'll carry them, even if they're going to be good.
Don't you see what I'm trying to say though? Like, you're like.
It's not a high bar, is what you're saying.
Yes,
so why not jump it?
It's dumbing it down. The content that is supposed to be somewhat challenging, right? And you find ways to unchallenge it, to make it unchallenging. I think.
But if the people that make anti-raid crybaby posts on the forums used a easier build and actually made it through the raid, they wouldn't make as many crybaby posts. Yeah,
he's right. He's right.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think it's fine that stuff like that is out there. I think it's good, in fact. I mean, I think it's good that you can kind of get really cheesy, right? And it's not just Soul Beast stuff. Like, you know, you look at Nike's video. Like, these are builds I love, man. Stuff like Heal Firebrand, heal Ellie, right?
Cool, by the way,
so cheesy, like that. And I love this stuff. I play this in pugs. It's great. I love Heal Firebrand, and I wish more pugs used it seriously because it's so strong. It's so strong, right? And
I do think
it's not optimal, right? You're gonna lose a bit of damage. It might take a little bit longer to do stuff with a heal fire, but it just makes it so safe. You know, it makes it so safe, and you know, it's people like that, right? People have always wanted like the healing guardian, that part of the fantasy, right? And now you have that with Firebrand. I think it's going to be really appealing. I think it's a great build. Same with Heal Ellie. It's a great build for getting into raids.
I totally agree on those two builds. I actually think they're pretty fun. But I'm also thinking that the people who like just settle for these build, like for a build like Shortbow, I'm really salty about Shortbow, right?
Well, it's a gateway drug. Once you give them the Shortbow, they want to see what's next, and they're like, "Ooh, a dagger! Look at that!"
And before you know it, they'll subscribe to your YouTube channel.
Yeah,
exactly.
Before you know it, they've moved on to Weaver, and they're dueling her off.
But seriously, that's how you do it. Like, you can give them a nice gentle entry, right? You don't have to like smack them over the head with the arc DPS. You know, you can have a nice, you can have a ramp into it. And at the end of the day, it's fine because to play short bow, it is a DPS host. It's not optimal, right? And so it's fine because there's still the capacity within raids to go full tryhard, right? And I think it's fine that raids are accessible for everyone because I actually think they are. I think anyone can raid if they want to. I don't think there's. I don't actually think there's much. To a certain extent, I don't really think there's much of an actual difficulty barrier. There's an artificial one there by kind of some weird community perceptions. But I do think anyone can raid if they want to. You know, or at least some of them. At least some. Maybe not all the bosses. Some of them are actually, you know, especially stuff like Doom and Solar Sorrow. Yeah, you know, those are a little bit tricky. And you know they might take a bit better getting used to, right? But I think certainly some of the bosses you can certainly get into them. I think anyone can do it. Anyone can raid.
But I think that's it. I think the boss's mechanics should be the difficulty in the raid necessarily, not the rotation of the class necessarily. Because, like, if you think that rotation of the class should be the most difficult thing about a raid, then I'll just say, or like the ability to play a class should be the most difficult thing about the raid. That's kind of silly because then why not Roca just go on, I don't know, like give yourself the worst build possible, all of you, to make raids really hard, and that has no survivability also. You've done that, exactly, but like there's no point to it.
Okay, now I get what you're saying, right? I think, and what I like about this, and what I do agree with, is this concept of self-imposed difficulty. Basically, the raids are easy enough so that you can go in there with like a very easy to play build and still clear them. And then if that gets boring, you can still go out and say, well, now I want to try a harder class, right? The only thing that I maybe take offense with is like I think that people kind of rip themselves of the fun, right? If you just go for the easiest thing to play, that kind of tells me you're probably not the person who might go out and then try to better yourself. So I'm not sure.
But that's not their fun. Their fun is getting the rewards and getting it done. You can't always have the best build or know how to run it. So if we can just get people in the door, whether they're casual, eventually those people who want to move on will rise to the top. But some people just want the rewards, so why not just let them get it and stop complaining about raids being so toxic when they're the ones being toxic on the forums? Why can't we just let those casuals just pick up those builds, get in the door, because that's what I was talking about, that door that seems like they just can't get in, but let them get in there, and eventually some of those guys might go that route. They might go, wow, I bet I can play better than this. Wow, I bet I can actually beat Doom CM with the group. I'm sure I can do this. And then we have more raiders to work from than just this toxic group that seems to be there at one point and then not. And then we don't have to worry about the toxicity. And when someone comes into a stream or comments on a YouTube video, well, raids are really hard to get into, and we can just be like, oh no, Nike just made this video, you know, if you're a warrior, just run this and see if it works for you, and they'll get the rewards and they'll stop complaining, and that toxicity will go down. Because pugs, if you go into a pug and everybody's having a good time with these builds that aren't optimized, at the end of the day, even I will be like, man, I need to get in raids, everybody has these rewards and I'm just sitting back here farming gold. So I don't see why not.
The question is so these, like this particular build, the short bow, is its only utility being able to do a decent amount of DPS by only pressing a couple of buttons?
No, it has stance share, so you could stack Perma Fury for your group, or like you could actually, if you had enough, you could stack a respectable amount of might if you used the one stance, Like I was thinking, like you could actually do like a legit Matthias speed kill using just those 3 builds, like where you had 2 Chaos Chronos, 2 Heal Firebrands, and 6 Soul Beasts.
Like, don't ever do that, Nike. Don't ever do that. Yeah, I will never talk.
That would be like
I'll make sure this community will come to your house.
That would be like perma every boon.
Yeah.
Like, infinite Aegises, infinite Condi cleanses, infinite heals. And the DPS is so easy, like, I don't know. And you'd have, like, CC out the ass. Like, it would be a very legit kill.
I'm thinking that you can go into the hardest content of this game and play a press 1 build and do nothing. And literally, we're talking about the kind of DPS where you could
But that's not do nothing. You gotta avoid the mechanics, right?
Yeah, you still have to do the mechanics.
Not when you have a Heal Firebrand.
I don't like
Aegis every mechanic.
But that's up to ANET. It's up to ANET to make these mechanics to make sure those builds don't just get away with it, right? So if they're just going to sit there and do the one skill over and over and over, maybe there should be something with that boss that just says, wow, you've hit me a lot and I haven't returned any damage. Let's just slap you in the face or something like that. And that'll prevent these builds from just being sort of roll over, let's get the free rewards. I saw somebody in chat say that. Everything in this game's free. I can buy Doom's Throne in a couple months here if I want to. So
you can even buy.
That's where I was going with this. It's like, how long are you going to be invested in that game? Are you going to come out of these raids and be like, wow, that was an amazing experience? Are you going to come out and be like, well, these raids were easier than I thought, right? And I'm like a little bit disappointed almost.
Well,
I don't know.
Is it necessarily just a good thing to make everything as easy as possible? Or does that just not also...
Okay,
I guess that's what CM is for?
Well, no. Because here's the thing, right? So when Wing 5 came out, right? Everyone on the first Doom kill, and even the first Doom CM kill, everyone was playing the easy builds, right? Everyone was playing easy. A lot of Guardian. Guardian was extremely common on
all
Doom,
Dragon Hunter,
right? Everyone playing Dragon Hunter, DPS, double heal Druid, blah blah blah. Heal Ellie as well. Heal Ellie all over the place in Wing 5, right? And those are the builds we're talking about. And yet it took the best players a very long time to kill it, right? Even with the toughest builds. So that difficulty is still going to be there no matter what kind of cheesy build you play, right?
We didn't have short bow zombies back then.
No, but we didn't have that. But honestly, that's probably a pretty strong candidate for next raid wing progression, man. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like seriously, no joke. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see that sort of thing kind of getting used, right? Like that.
And again, new mechanics
again, you know, Guardian is it's a beginner. It's a good class to get into raids with it. You know, Guardian is a good class to start off with. It's a relatively easy rotation, and it performed well at the time. It's not as good now, because the meta has shifted a little bit, but still, right? It's always going to be difficult, but the thing is, like, PvE just has obviously, right, it has a tendency to get trivialized over time, because people say, well, people just get really good at the mechanics, they understand them very, very well, and they start running more and more optimal builds. Like, the strategies get more refined as time goes on, and so I think, I don't know, man, I think you... need to remember Wing 5, Roca. You need to remember how much that stung, getting that down for the first time, you know? With just the mechanics, right?
That shit was easy to me. I just acted it was hard.
Yeah.
Roca does have a kind of a point, though. Like, what happens if this does become the new meta, right? Like, what if Pug meta now is you run these easy-to-play builds? What happens to people who want to play different the elite builds now? What happens to those people?
Well,
is it going to be like kill proof or easy build now? Is that what's going to happen?
If you enjoyed playing the other, like the harder Soul Beast build, you could probably get away with playing that in the Pug, so long as you weren't the worst DPS in the group. like as long as you blended in with the crowd, you would be undetected.
I think in a Pug you aren't going to be top DPS on that build. Not going to be bottom DPS. Honestly, if you play that Soul Beast build well, you probably end up as top DPS a lot of the time in Pugs.
Right? I played Power Jedi in a Pug and I was top DPS, so that's not really that terribly hard to be top DPS, and it's a matter of luck, I guess. I guess the thing that appalls me about that Soul Beast build is just how that it's not very hard to just play the normal one, right? That's what appalls me overall.
You got a weapon swap.
Everything else you're right about, all right? I'm going to admit that much. But it's just so stupid that all you have to do is weapon swap and press 5 and 2 and 4 from time to time, and you'd have the normal rotation. So it's... That's what appalls me. It's like, oh, God, it's not that hard to do the correct one. So why do the cheesy one, I guess. But let's move on from
Why do the correct one if it's only 1k more DPS?
That's a balance issue, Arena. I hope you're listening.
They nerfed Torch. They nerfed Torch 5 like 3 times in 3 balance patches in a row, which made the gap like so much closer.
It's just kind of funny because people used to run Sword X and 2 different weapon swaps sets, so they could only swap between the same weapon set, and now they're shot by shot, and they're still just swapping between the same weapon set, which is kind of hilarious to me. But let's move on from that topic, maybe.
Okay. Well, all right.
No, I think we can kind of poke on that topic a little bit, and I think I agree with them. I agree with you. I can have some sympathy to that point, Rocker. And yeah, sure, maybe they should make that build a little worse. Okay, because even if, let's be real, if it was a little worse, you could still clear raids with it fine, right? Like, to do no updraft Gorsel, you need something like, what? Like 8.6k DPS average to do it or something like that. Like, and you know, if you can push that to like 10, 15k, like you're gonna be really easy, and that's not difficult, guys. Pretty much any build, like fucking Power Necro can do that, right? Power Necro. Yeah, so you're not gonna have any real problems if you play the build correctly. So yeah, sure, we could nerf that down a bit, and yeah, I agree. Maybe they should buff up the other stuff, right? We should buff up the other stuff so you get rewarded, and you do, right? I mean, look at stuff like on Gorsel. What do you see? Like, if you tried to play that Soul Beast build versus a Weaver, you're gonna get shadowed. You know, you're gonna get wrecked. It turns out Necro is also pretty much optimal everywhere, which is kind of funny. How wrong the community was, right? It turns out, you know, everyone thought that power classes were optimal on Veil Guardian, boys, but oh no, looks like that isn't the case at all. Looks like if you just run, obviously DNT was actually the first to do this with their Necro kill, but Lucky Noobs have actually done an even faster kill. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but they dropped the Druid. Yeah, they did it with no Druid. They just dropped the healer and put in another Necro in, man.
That would have never happened in my time. No, I would have never let anybody replace the Druid.
So, I think it's fine to have these kind of easy builds, because at the end of the day, it's not optimal. If it was optimal, then yeah, I think you'd have a point. If it was optimal that you have like this one button rotation or this relatively simple rotation with, you just use the short bow abilities and the stances, yeah, then that's a problem, obviously, right? That's a little silly. But that's just not the case. I don't think there's any boss where that build is optimal, and therefore I think it's fine. To have these kind of easier builds for beginners.
And I mean,
there's
right? Other DPS builds waiting too. Like if you bopped that one, like then Kitless Hollow becomes the user-friendly build.
Yeah, stuff like Thief as well, right?
Staff Thief becomes like the user-friendly build. And like people shit on Staff Thief, but it could literally just sit there and auto attack and dodge every 10 seconds and get
it's
like
hard that I mean that's
and just get as good a DPS as anybody.
Oh. So yeah, well, I mean, it's fine, right? It's fine to have easy builds for people to get into raids, and then I'm just hoping that they'll make that transition and actually try to get good at the game. Like,
I think if you give them another role besides just.
The next thing is, I feel like these people are going to be dead weights as soon as they're going to be confronted with a boss where they actually have to do a mechanic or something.
But they have to learn these things.
They're dead weight, right? And they probably are dependent on having good buff classes who will pretty much carry them in that way. So I'm just a believer of that everybody should carry their own weight in a raid, right? But
well, what would you rather? Would you rather a new player learns a mechanic on a short bow Soul Beast while pressing a few buttons, or would you rather them do it on Weaver? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then again, right?
Or as your chrono tank.
Yeah, well, no, honestly,
I want him to be on the chrono tank. To be honest,
the way Mesmer is right now, Mesmer is quite user friendly. They have made it a lot easier to get into, I think. I think old Chrono, which was kind of, back when Brazil was playing the game, right? Like, old Chrono was, people, probably you might have a bit of trouble getting into Mesmer, Like, there was a lot of intricacy to it. Like, if you fucked up, you'd get punished quite hard if you messed it up. And that's much less the case now. And I actually think the gameplay, it feels a lot better. I like the Phantasm changes. I think that's a nice one. But that's
Remember when Chrono had to switch sub-squads it was in? Every SOI?
Yeah.
Like, that was, like pinnacle Chrono difficulty right there. That was not fun.
But even that, right, even when, back in the day when you would run one Chrono for some reason, we were weird back then, boys, what can I say? But even then, you'd have to jiggle around in the group to try and distribute the quickness out, right? To make sure that everyone gets quickness. That sort of thing is... It's not intuitive to players really so much. They have made stuff a little bit easier and more accessible, but there still is that capacity for more high-end game, for that more high-level gameplay as well. You can still kind of distort some things, although it's a shadow of its former self. Feels bad, man.
Well, as long as there really still is that way to improve yourself to actually self-impose some difficulty and make it faster, be a little bit more rewarding, then I guess I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, despite being the toxic elitist that I am.
Yeah. Honestly, I've got to make an apology here, man. I honestly thought Nike would be on here just going crazy, just roasting the casuals, but it's Roca. Roca's toxic.
Right?
He's the most toxic.
He's toxic.
Yeah, fuck the casuals.
Yeah.
Like, it's like selfish on my end. Like, I want more of the casuals to raid, because if the ANET stats show that raiding is like growing in popularity, they're going to devote more resources to it.
Right.
As simple as that.
If you want that, you got to get them through the door with those simple builds. You got to get them, because remember, casuals have time, and they see time as a valuable resource. They're not going to go practice a build. They're not going to go do the extra mile. They're going to look it up on the internet.
Are you calling practicing a build the extra mile, though? That's
yes, it is.
Yes,
it is for a casual player. It is. It is for a casual player,
I
man.
don't practice
Roca,
builds. I pick them up and just start playing.
The extra mile is also finding your own raid group that's not a bug, and that doesn't happen either very often.
Let me give you an example. So way back in the day when Triple Trouble first came out, and it was like people were going for like world first on that, and it was like the hardest thing in the game at the time. We were on Blackgate Ventrilo server or TeamSpeak or whatever, and there was a woman on there playing Condi Necro, and we were like, we really need like power builds for this, because we have to and especially that was before Condi got revamped and it was really bad, like to where you could only have 25 bleeds on a world boss max. And so she was doing 0 DPS, and we were like, hey, can you at least run like power Necro? And she goes, sure, but it'll take me 2 weeks to learn a new build. And we're like, just literally equip Berserker gear and auto attack with dagger, please. And she was like, no, it'll take me 2 weeks. It's better I just stay on this. And I was like, okay, this is not going well. So that was extreme casualism right there.
I don't know if it takes if she actually works 2 weeks towards learning that build, that's not casual at all. That's really
but she had no intention of actually doing it.
But isn't that also casual, like a little bit just brushing it off as, oh no, that's gonna take me time and effort. I don't do that. I'd rather not do it in the first place. And is that really what like raids are supposed to comfort? Is that what raid should have?
Well, now here is the thing. Now here is the thing where I would actually this is where I would criticize the casual community, and to an extent Zorric here as well. Actually, you will have an easier time if you do your build better, right? There's 100%, and this is where I would say that learning DPS rotations, or at least familiarizing yourself with them a little bit, right, is going to make your raid experience better. Right, you can't get around that. In my opinion, there is no way around that, right? Because more DPS, dies faster, less mechanics to fuck up, easy peasy, at the end of the day. So that is why, again, it's not compulsory. If you want to go in a group and not worry too much about DPS, that's fine. You can do raids. That you can definitely get away with that. But you are making it harder than it needs to be to a certain extent. But if this group doesn't mind that, and they realize that they're going to have to probably take longer to progress through it, that's fine. If they enjoy that, that's great, actually. In fact, progression is my favorite part of raids. So if they just want to go along for the ride and just get through it with friends, awesome, right? Great. But you are kind of screwing yourself over by not learning the rotation. Because if you don't do DPS, raids are kind of hard. And honestly, one of the reasons why people think raids are kind of easy in Guild Wars 2 is because they die in 2 minutes if you just, if you just blow them up, if you hit them really hard. So I would really encourage, if there are any players who are more casual in Guild Wars 2 watching the stream or happen to come across this on YouTube, if you want to get into raids, guys, just have a crack at the rotation, right? Like, look at a Snow Crows video, right? Just kind of familiarize yourself with it a little bit, because you will make your experience better. You're not going to get kicked. You're much less likely to get kicked, and you'll have a better experience and an easier time in raids. And there you go. Statement over, boys.
And learn what all your skills do on your bar. Like for the short bow druid, it might surprise some people to know that one of the skills on the bow is a CC. Like, you are allowed to use that when the boss goes into a break bar. So, it helps. People they copy the build off Meta Battle or Snow Crows, and they don't actually like look and see what the skills do. They don't know what the traits do. Like they need like that. I'm not asking you to spend 8 hours on the golem mastering the rotation, but at least learn what your skills do.
Also, get a warthog. Like, do your team a favor. Get a warthog.
Yeah, warthog, pretty good.
They got to get out of the box. I feel like a lot of casuals, they get inside this box and they're afraid to step outside of it. And as myself, I remember making my EU account and moving from Condi Reaper to Power Reaper. And I learned a lot of things from stepping outside that box, is that I could actually be pretty good with the Power Reaper versus my Condi Reaper, and I saw the differences. And so I feel, especially people like myself, we get stuck in a box and we're afraid to step outside of it and grab a build and sort of just play with it for a while and understand what those skills are. And I think that's where casuals bring a bit of toxicity, is I'm not changing, you should, and that just doesn't work.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of sad. Like, there's a huge world out there for people who are in their box, right? And I see that actually quite frequently when you're around with training groups. People usually don't want to do mechanics for the first time, right? People usually want to say, no, you go ahead and do that. Give me the easy job. But then they never learn the mechanics, right? So,
and I think that's fine for the first try. I do think that's fine for the first try, though. But I think you should definitely go for mechanics after you've done the boss a few times, right?
But like, especially when you're in a training raid situation, like, just go out there and just go say, yo, I'm gonna take this thing, and even if I mess it up a couple of times, that's what training raids are for, right? And that's what, like, eventually you're gonna learn it. The next run you're on, you're gonna be the guy who's actually like giving somebody else the opportunity to do it for the first time.
Yeah.
And really, all like, I wanna. Like, I'm really not trying to be super toxic here, right? I'm just trying to point out there, right? There is a little bit of engagement that you should bring to the table if you're going to raids, right? I don't think it's too much. I'm not saying like become the best player in the world and go in there and like, unless you're like top DPS on the Golem on Weaver, you shouldn't even step into raids. All I'm saying is basically read your skills, read your traits, watch a video, go to the Golem for like 15 minutes, and you're probably fine, right?
Yeah.
And Boots said it before, join a guild. Like, stop pugging. Like, yeah, the pugging experience is pretty dismal, because that should be your encouragement. Like, there's tons of people that they do a full clear every Monday and they pug every single boss. And it's like, that's insane to me. Like, like, I see that Reddit post, there's like that music guild that like raids, and they just like, they bullshit around and have fun. Like, that's the better, like, that's the experience that the casual players should want. Find a group. But like, some of them are like, oh, I have all sorts of self-diagnosed mental disorders, so I can't join a group, like, and talk on voice. Like, I've heard that a million times. Like, like, if I join a group, I'll have to talk on mic. Oh my god! And then I'll get triggered by I'll have to go to Tumblr and make a post. But like, but yeah, like, joining a group that has the same values and like-mindedness is what's going to make it fun to play when you're killing the boss for the 5th, 6th, 7th week in a row before the new raid wing comes out.
But that's it though, isn't it? Like, this whole discussion is basically. There is a barrier to entry for people who don't raid very often or at all to the raiding scene. And that barrier is either made by a community of where pugging is difficult. Pugging is difficult for new players because you're not good at your build yet, people could be mean, etc. And it's kind of like, intimidating. And then there's also the fact that the easiest way to get into a raid is through pugs, and it's harder to make a guild, join a guild, etc. I think that we've talked about one possible way of at least alleviating some of the intimidation in pugging, which is have builds that carry you, basically. And is there a way to make it easier to find a guild, maybe also? Is there something that we could do in that respect too?
Random user just posted like training discords in the chat.
Yeah, I do have a bit of a problem with like it's difficult to find a guild, because if you stand in the Lion's Arch aerodrome, okay, and you ask, how do I get into raids, or how do I get into a raiding guild, I reckon if you're standing there at prime time, it will be like 30 seconds before someone links snowcrows.com Raiders in, or NA. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's Raiders Academy on NA or something like that. On NA, they'll just actually point you to Yummy because you just buy. You can't join a training guild on NA. You have to just buy raids on NA. But on EU, we're okay at least, right? So we have that going for us. So I think I don't know. I think it is pretty easy to join a guild, honestly. And joining Crossroads is easy. You just hop on their Discord and you can talk to the boys, and then they'll hook you up. And hey, you want raids? You don't even have to learn them in my guild, man. Like we'll boost you through. You might get flamed a bit, but we'll get you through them at the end.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you there.
I just linked the Reddit Guild Wars 2 guild recruitment thing, and I filtered it by raid, the word raid. So it's a page after page of.
But that's
raid
Reddit. Like, I mean, how many people from Guild Wars
that's
goes Reddit?
Right. So, no, we're assuming that only within the game. I don't think it's actually fair to assume that, especially the more casual player, the more the player who has less time is going to be searching for these resources outside the game, right? But I think you can get them quite easily, right?
By talking in match chat, I agree. But I think that the reason why new players go to raids by pugging is because it's so available there. You have your looking for group set up, you just click on it and you get linked up. I think that maybe, especially now that World vs. World is getting its rehash, I think there needs to probably be some sort of in-game guild recruitment thing as well.
I agree with that 100%. ANET should have had that a long time ago, because I've seen it inside of there sometimes, people recruiting, and then people just throwing this fit about people recruiting. But there should have been a section when LFG came out of guild recruitment, and easily you could just put, this is what we're about. Whisper me, I'm right here in game, because if you're not, your message isn't going to be there. And so people be able to just, boom, hey, I'm interested in your training raid guild here. And I think that would be a huge improvement to a lot of this, because you'll be able right there in game find what you need.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Yeah. But do you think that's kind of the main barrier to entry for training guilds, Zorric? Do you think that's a bit of a problem there? What do you think prevents people from joining training guilds or more friendly environments, as opposed to just going into pugs, which even amongst the elitists, the quote unquote elitists, right? Pugging is it is a little bit toxic. I'm not gonna lie. There's a fair amount of toxicity, right? So what do you think prevents people from going these more friendly routes, or missing them even, or whatever?
It's just that they're not there. They're not just an open book, something they just stumble across. If you're a casual player doing your dailies or whatever, a lot of people found their guild probably in a map chat advertisement, just thrown up there, and they saw it and they said, hey, I'm interested in your guild. It sounds like something I'd like to join. So if you start throwing that in their face for people who are interested in raiding or a training raid group, I'm sure they'll eventually just bite. It's that other thing that'll get them right in the door. They'll be like, all right, I'll see what this is about, because you can have 5 guilds, so why wouldn't you join one if you're interested in raiding and put it in one of those slots just to jump in and start checking it out? And if it was right there in the game, I feel like a lot of casuals could take the 10-15 seconds to take a look at that message.
Yeah.
Like they already do.
Even though map chat does work, it is just like extra layers of resistance. Like you have to ask what's a good way to get into raids. Then you have to be lucky enough that somebody responds to you with something that's actually true. Then you have to contact those people, and then it goes on and on, right? So like if you had something that was a lot easier, like looking for group, it would be good for the game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people approach it, even though it's an MMO, as if it was a single player RPG. Like that's a huge issue, is that people are like, they want that Skyrim experience in Guild Wars 2, and why should they join a guild? That's not what they're looking for in the game. Like that, and that's their mentality, and it's wrong. It's crazy to play an MMO with zero intention of ever grouping with people, but like I would say once a week there's probably a Reddit post that like gets immediately downvoted to oblivion saying, hey, can I beat the game without having to group with someone? Like that comes up a lot, and it's like that's like a crazy mindset to go into in the first place, but people do. And yeah, and there's so much information like that's not like you guys were saying, that's not available, like that doesn't hit you in the face in game. Like on my YouTube channel, like at least once a week I get a random comment on a random video going, they have DPS meters in Guild Wars 2 now, and it's like, or how can I get this DPS meter? It's like, how could you have missed the last like year where like every video anyone's ever posted in every stream has had a DPS meter in it, but they're just oblivious to it because it's so outside their experience.
You know, and it's pretty obvious though. Like, probably most of the Guild Wars 2 community does not look at anything about Guild Wars 2 outside of Guild Wars 2.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem is like what I was touching on is even if you had like an in-game guild finder to like recruitment for guilds in-game, you'd still run into the people that were looking for that single player experience and like wouldn't join the guild even if it was right there in front of them.
I always like options in the game. That's why when I see ArenaNet come up with a new anything and then a bunch of people hate it, I always feel like the players themselves are limiting themselves. So yes, that's going to happen, but at least that option's for someone who catches it, who actually does want to take that little bit effort for that one person. So I'm always okay with more and more options inside of the game specifically, because then, you know, when you load up the game, it's there. At the end of the day, if you don't want to go to Reddit or the forums because you don't like them, at least you have the looking for group. And say it only catches another 10% of players. That's 10% who have that option finally. And I don't think it would be much more effort for ArenaNet just to...
Well, we can't say that.
That's true because the layers of coding, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I wish it was there for those who... Because I find two different eras inside of the game. The ones who left shortly after the game came out, a few months is what they say, and the ones who left after HOT, because HOT pushed a lot of players away. And now I'm finding a lot of players come back now with mounts and things like that, and they're like, oh, this game isn't, I don't remember this, I don't remember that. And then the surprise DPS meter, the surprise, you know, oh, we don't have to pay for armor in World versus World. Yeah, it's been that way for a while, but as a veteran, it's easy to skip over that. These people have been gone for years, months, and when they finally come back, and all these changes have happened because ArenaNet's listening, it just
new game.
It really is though. It really is. Yeah.
It's so funny. You're always teaching them too. Like they come back and you have to like, yeah, this is what this is. This is what this is. This is what this is. So maybe a looking for group for people who want raids wouldn't be such a bad idea to catch those who are coming back and finally go, oh, this exists. And then they can learn that.
Especially for World versus World coming up.
Yes, those alliances.
Yeah, because it's really going to shuffle that up as well. So I mean, that could be a good chance to reshuffle. And you know, I tell you what, with alliances, okay, and this kind of segues into chat was talking about this a little bit as well. Don't worry, chat. I see you guys. Okay, I don't ignore you. I love you. Okay. They were talking about guild slots. Okay, and please, okay, make it easier for people to have these multiple guilds for multiple game modes, right? So just give 10 guild slots, or at least sell guild slots. Make it so it's really easy to get into a training guild, right? Because right now, if I wanted to join a training guild, I wouldn't be able to, because I've already got, I'm full, man. And they're not even meme guilds. I don't even have a meme guild. You know, it's like I have a meme guild. You know, I'm already full on guilds. So more guild slots, please. You know, especially with alliances, right, where you're going to need to be in a very specific guild for a very specific game mode. Okay. And for PvE, you might have different guilds for different purposes. You might have like a friend guild. You might have a training guild. And maybe you have a more hardcore guild as well, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff. You already be full. You know. And then maybe you have a PvP guild. Maybe you play that game mode as well. And it's suddenly, well, I can't be in all of these. And I think it will be a great opportunity to actually not only make a bit of cash, because that would sell ArenaNet. I'm just going to say it. People would buy that's expansion 3 right there. Okay, guild slots, right? All right. Yeah, you hear me? Okay, but also it will make getting into multiple game modes and joining multiple communities in a game called Guild Wars 2 a lot easier if we had more guilds. And I think that would be such a great addition for it, right? Yeah, if you're, I'm not, guys, this is not a joke. Also for the roleplay community as well, right? You might want to be in multiple roleplay guilds, okay? Right?
ERP, normal RP. You gotta separate. You gotta separate them.
We gotta be serious about it, man. This is serious, okay? It is a big thing in ERP. ERP, shit. Fuck. No! It's a big thing in ERP because there'll be different type, different areas of roleplay that you might be interested in, right?
Even within ERP, you're talking about?
Even there'll be different varieties of ERP, But yeah, I think that's a bit of a thing there's a problem, right? You don't need to be. Yeah, I guess you don't need to be in the training guild because you have Discord. But I suppose there's other forms as well. But I think it would be nice to have it in the game as well. It's not necessary to be in the guild, but I think it would be good if you could be in the guild, right?
Yeah, I think more guild slots is a good idea, especially if they sell them. I also think, build templates is another cash cow there, and I'm looking for a lot of really interesting features. Yeah, features that are cash cows for them, and I think those are two things that could be good.
Yeah, speaking of cash cows, and I agree, they are good. I don't want to segue this too much, but
I hear what you're saying.
I bought Black Lion keys.
Oh, you fool!
And it hurt. Last time, I did really well out of them, okay? I got the scythe skin from Wardrobe Unlock. I'm in pain, okay? Terrible pain now. Because these Black Lion keys were shit. And I regret everything. And I should have saved until Tuesday. Because now I'm going to have to buy...
How many did you buy?
100.
Oh. No, I did the same thing. These chests are horrible. Don't open these chests. Wait for the next one.
Now you're
so bad.
What's
so
on
bad.
Are
they still on sale right now? Actually, are we still okay? Can I get some more? I'm gonna go check actually. Oh,
I opened 55 to get the longbow just to realize that it's still not really viable.
Oh, they're not on sale anymore. I don't think they're on sale anymore. No, they aren't. Okay, I'm fucked. Feels bad.
Yeah, you should have gone for the short bow, not the longbow.
Man.
You know what? I used 55 to get the longbow, and I didn't even get the glider too.
Yeah. Honestly, it was so fun. It was. I say they were bad, but they were only bad because of how good my last ones were. I was insanely lucky on my last one. I need to actually upload that. Actually, I need to post that somewhere because those keys were absolutely insanely rigged. I'm just gonna say it, boys. Okay.
You know what this means, though? That's another 100 Black Lion boosters.
Yes, so I have got away with that. It's more like 117 as well, so not bad.
There you go. Not bad.
But is there anything we haven't really covered with regards to this raid topic, actually?
Oh. Is there a tournament coming up?
Yeah, we've got a tournament. And actually, guys, I'll tell you what. I've actually prepared a hype video that I will play at the end of the stream, so be sure to stick around for that. Yeah, so I think it will work. I'm pretty sure it will work.
TeaTime exclusive.
Yeah, so TeaTime exclusive. And that will be, it's not exactly finished. I still want to play with it a little bit, but maybe it is. I'll defend. We're going to show it at the end of the TeaTime, guys, so stick around for that, okay? Stick around for that. And that will be probably uploaded at the start of this coming week. We'll be announcing the teams in the tournament, of course. That will be coming up, okay? And we're not going to show it now. We're not doing it now. Chat, no. Okay, but the PvP drama, honestly, guys, well, no. I'll actually talk about that at the end of the TeaTime as well, because there is actually some. It's not going to be coming from us where you're going to hear about this. We've got a better source, actually. But anyway, is there anything else we need to talk about this? Do we want to talk about the stuff like the community resources with regards to the opinion of the community resources? Like what do you think? How do you guys feel about the reception of stuff like Snow Crows and the benchmarks? Right? Like what do you think? Do you think Snow Crows need to be more explicit, or are the community disgusting casuals? Okay, I think Zorric, you want to go? You want to lead us in on that?
So my biggest thing, as a casual, when I see content go up for Guild Wars 2, I always think it's targeting a specific audience, but I'm an idiot because at the end of the day, everybody thinks the game is for them. So like when Guild Wars 2 retweeted a Snow Crows post that went up, immediately there was some backlash about the builds and things like that, and it actually blew my mind. It was like ArenaNet was suddenly trying to turn everyone into these benchmark experts, and they have to, or you can't play the game. And people would come to me saying this, like, I feel like ArenaNet is doing this. And sometimes, yes, I feel that way, but remember, we're inside of a box. So when we get that pressure on the outside the box to change a little bit, people do that. But in this case, benchmarks or anything from Snow Crows, is a resource. I go and find stuff from Snow Crows to go use in my open world farming, because I see they do this with Doom, and I realize I can go gather up some things and just wipe them out, right? And so it's a resource, but people don't use it as a resource. I myself find that the benchmark Snow Crows, specifically anytime someone goes to, back in the day QT, that they absorb this as fact.
It's like any religious text. You have to take what's useful from it and not necessarily believe everything in it.
Boots is a cafeteria casual. He picks and chooses.
Yeah, that's right.
What he wants. Yeah.
I believe the community can be better with that. That way, if Snow Crows releases, Nike releases something, anybody out there releases high-end content, it's not for you if you're a casual. And when I see it, I do the meh. I'm not interested. Like, the only reason I watched Nike's video, to be honest, last time is because I was actually interested to see what they did inside of it, to see if I can pick anything up. And a lot of people were doing that thing where, like, we can beat this guy faster. I'm like, really? Can you? And so seeing it from that perspective is the only reason why I'd watch it. Other than that, it just doesn't interest me. I'll if someone asks me about it, I'll post it. But at the end of the day, it just... What's it to me when I'm farming muscles? What's it to me when I just go in and do daily fractals? What's it to me for anything else in the game when I'm not really playing raids? And so, fractals has changed, of course. So it sort of, that's just it, though. Now, the limits, there's always something, right? The 300 Li, you need 10K AP, you need to, have your mother's panties on stream at some point to be in this group. And it's ridiculous. And
I'll let you into my group for that, even on Power Reaper.
So every time I see these things happen, especially with fractals right now, it's almost like you need to be this class with this build, or you can't join. And I see them sit there for 40 minutes, and I'm like, you could be done with the fractal by now if you just take that requirement off. But again, they're looking for an easy experience in the sense that in the same mindset and things like that. So I don't know. When I see the benchmarks, I like it, but at the same time, I'm taken aback because a lot of community I know is going to come and give that negative feedback. And I feel the same sometimes, especially when I see the meta builds. I feel ArenaNet's trying to force us into this shell we don't want to be in sometimes, especially with the melee right now and a lot of the content. It's just hard to play melee, and it just hurts. It just hurts. But I would like to see people just, if you see a benchmark and you're not running the meta, you can't go and complain about it because it's a resource. It's not a definitive rule or guideline you have to follow. So
thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Okay.
Because the entire feedback to that post just made me so very, very sad in how people just wanted to read that they're being forced into something. Like they wanted to go to Reddit and complain how they're being forced to play toxic meta. Now ArenaNet is jumping on this and forcing. I can never do. Like there was at some point somebody there saying that if he ever now gets kicked from an open world bounty squad for not playing these builds, he'll quit the game or something. To the point where I was like thinking, did you even read the post? Did you ever even like remotely look at what these things are saying? And it's not just SE. QT used to do this all the time, right? Upload posts and say explicitly that this is not something that you're forced to play, right? These are suggestions. This is what we have found out through much trouble and much practice and much dedicated theory craft. These are things that are working for us and that we are sharing with you. This is by no means us telling you to kick every necro. If you're kicking every necro, then you're the dick and don't blame the guilds that made the builds. And so that I'm just so thankful that you're seeing it that way. Makes me very happy.
You gotta take it,
I'm really curious as to why people kind of feel that way, really, because I think that's not. Am I wrong here? But can someone link the tweet? Actually, can someone link the SC the retweet that it was retweeted by ArenaNet? Because didn't it mention? Okay, there is actually a bit of a quibble that you could have here, actually, and I think it could be legitimate. I believe that they said PvE and not explicitly raids. Okay?
Yeah.
So if you're if you really have no kind of critical thinking skills or like ability to understand, you know, what you're actually reading, yeah, I can kind of get like, oh, what you're saying? I need to run my Berserker Staff Weaver in PvE to do my bounties? Are you kidding me? Like, well, I mean, no, of course that's not what they're saying, right? But I could maybe have some kind of sympathy to that point, but other than that, I don't really get it. Here we go. Here's the Perry link to it. Here we go. Okay, Theory Crafters from snowcrows.com have run and tested the numbers from the latest balance patch for PvE. Find out how to make the best use of your favorite profession. Okay, so now this statement is factual, in my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do PvE, this is, yeah, I mean, they've done the math, you know, they've got their spreadsheets out. They've min-maxed the builds, they've got all those infusions and everything, and they've done the rotations, they've had their players figure out the best way to play it.
But the phrase isn't even saying that the builds are for PvE. It's just saying the balance patch was for PvE.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, it's kind of implicit, right?
Yeah.
Damn it, ArenaNet.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It seems weird that there will be such a negative response because Snowcrows really want to. Their aim here is to help people, right? At the end of the day, right? Their aim is that these builds will help people beat this content, okay? And they've written guides as well. They've written guides on if you go to snowcrows.com, guys, you can see a pretty much very in-depth guide, text guide, for pretty much every class on every boss, right? Or most classes on most bosses, right? They're not here to be evil and enforce, you know, their iron will on the disgusting casual community. That's not what it is at all, right? They even link to training guilds on their website. If you go ahead and go to snowcrows.com, there's training resources that you can find for EU and NA. It's just,
I don't know.
It's
Perry
bizarre.
always enforces his will on me.
Yeah. You know, it is quite unusual that there is this response. I think it's unfortunate actually because, and then to throw it back in Guild Wars 2, you know, the official Guild Wars 2 Twitter account's face and say, you know, you guys are disgusting. Trying to tell me how to play my MMO? Well, no. I mean, they're just linking a community resource on how to, you know, beat PvE content. It's just bizarre. I don't know. I don't really get that.
Yeah.
Their guide page is like every other guide page. If you look up a guide on how to do a certain collection, that doesn't impose on you on how to play the game. That's not a problem.
No, they love Dolphy guides.
Those are great.
They don't even get mad when there's taco markers showing you like where to run. Like that's the most like handheld thing you could have. Like taco markers to do collections and stuff. It's like my God, like
you know, this kind of makes sense actually. If they're retweeting this because they want to impose Guild Wars, ArenaNet wants to impose these builds onto people and force people to play these builds. It explains why they never retweet any of my bad builds because they don't want to force that on anybody.
I think where it comes from is actually the content inside the game is that people's older builds are dying out. So when us casuals have been playing a build for a year and a half, and ArenaNet starts adding mechanics inside of the game that don't support that build, your build just isn't good against it, and it gets tough, and then suddenly you start seeing, you know, Snowcrows or benchmarks or look at these builds. I think that's where it comes from, this feeling of my build isn't good anymore. It seems like the content is just getting harder and harder, and now they're telling me I need to run the best, and I agree with that to a point because I remember playing Warrior, 5,000 hours of Warrior, and then when I got to HOT, Melee just wasn't going to cut it anymore, and I eventually moved over to Necro, you know, the god of PvE, and so it just destroyed all the content, and even in POF, I didn't even change from Condi Reaper, and I just ran through that content. Now, if they did something against Condi Reaper, and then I saw that post, of course I'm going to feel, yeah, okay, ArenaNet wants me to run Condi Scourge. I get it, you know, and I see it. When they complain to me, I completely understand that when the game's getting harder or your build isn't working as effectively as it once was because of balance changes and things like that, then it makes sense to have animosity, but it shouldn't be at a specific group. It should be ANET, Wise is getting harder, but instead when they see Snowcrow posts, they go, look, ANET's supporting these guys and they're toxic elitists and Roca's the devil, and it just doesn't make sense.
That's true.
I am the devil.
Yeah, you were right on there. You were right on there, man. You 100%. Yeah, definitely. You were right on. Definitely.
About Roca being the devil?
No,
Yes.
not about.
That's what I was saying.
No.
Another thing that I think actually adds to the unless you wanted to say something, TeaTime.
Oh no, I was just going to say that there is it's almost like certain people kind of think that SC are just saying that, right? They're just saying, well, Weaver is the best because we say so, right? Not because it actually is. I feel like that people think there's a bit of a. People think that you actually can do 30k DPS on any class, right? But
we just dislike Necro. That's the reason.
It's not like we did a low benchmark for Necro because we hate Necro. Okay, here at snowcrows.com. No, miss me with that, dude. I don't want that here.
I get nightmares from that stuff. So I want people to play Mesmer. That picks.
Yeah, that's good. But sorry, you go ahead, Roca. You go ahead. What do you got to say?
Another thing that I wanted to add is I think people are just inherently afraid that we could turn into that community they're afraid of. Basically, we could turn into these people that will force people to play that. And I think there's actually quite a large community. Whenever I talk to people who have come from World of Warcraft to Guild Wars 2, and I think there's like a whole demography of people who in Guild Wars 2 who are ex-World of Warcraft players, they seem to be frantically afraid of Guild Wars turning into World of Warcraft community-wise, as in that you have to, in order to even get into any guild, basically, you'll have to send them logs of your previous raids, right? And they'll only accept you if you have like perfect scores in that log. It's basically like, imagine I'd have to send you a panel of me performing in a raid, but that would obviously never really mirror the actual rate that that might be falsified information.
Well,
all that, And that,
funny you say that. Murph was streaming the other day on last Monday, and he was showing the new version of Radar that isn't out yet. That's coming out. It's going to have a lot of toxic features.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Well, I've heard that you can see top 1. I've heard that you can see
you will
rank
see
1
the
DPS.
100th percentile. Yes. There's going to be a lot of boosted dick measuring going on there.
I have a bunch of logs there.
All the boosted angles, all the low angle dick shots are going to be on there with every aura that you can stack on one guy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Top five warrior looking for group is going to be in looking for group from now on because of that, for sure. It's going to be, oh my god, that's going to be terrible.
It's going to be. And like I think there's going to be like leaderboards and guild leaderboards.
Shit.
There's going to be like you'll be able to link like your page with like your percentiles on every boss, so people will be able to like analyze you. Oh, it's going to be.
And if there's one thing that Rip and Races have told me, it's that
it's going to be toxic.
Toxic in every.
But the thing is, it's not actually. I mean, we're saying, it's going to be toxic, but honestly, this is going to be used as a dick measuring tool against the actual try-hard guilds, right? No one is going to enforce this on pugs, right? That's just not going to happen. No one's going to.
Yeah, because most pugs have this idea that the 50th percentile is good. So, like, as long as they're hitting like kitty marks, I hit 50th percentile DPS, I'm great. Like I hit 51. I'm in the 51 percentile. I'm better than average. And it's like, well, it's not exactly how the numbers work, but okay. Like, no one. They don't need to be 99.9 percentile. Like, that'll just be for the Weaver elitists that want.
Oh yeah.
Because they're the only people that really care.
Exactly.
About who's
to reply to what Melvin said in chat here, there's nothing wrong with linking logs to get into a guild. In fact, you will have to do something similar in Guild Wars 2, right, to get into a high-end guild, almost certainly, right? Or you have to do a DPS check. They'll be watching you while you'll join a raid with them. They'll watch you, see how much DPS you do, boon up time,
just sending logs,
etc. Well, sending logs, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, there's nothing
relying on logs. I mean, how are you gonna rate my performance?
The thing is, why people shouldn't be afraid of this ever turning into a World of Warcraft style community is that to do the hardest content in WoW at least when it's happening, at least at the time, because of course there is the gear progression, so things eventually, it gets less strict as you go on. WoW has DPS checks, right? WoW has DPS checks. Guild Wars 2 does not have DPS checks by any stretch of the imagination. If you're enraging a boss in Guild Wars 2 in raids, something's going wrong, right? Okay, yeah. Just take a look at even if you look at something like, even with Salt, right? When I do casual clears with Salt, we absolutely smash these bosses, man. Honestly, we use about half the amount of time we're allowed, and that's very casual, right? We're just like fucking around, weird comps, not a perfect play by any stretch of the imagination. Everyone's just having fun, chatting on Discord, having a good time, not try-harding, right, or anything. And you're gonna crush everything, right? And as Perry said, some of the enrages don't even matter. Some of them won't even kill you. So it's not even a big deal, right? So I don't think that there's much legitimacy to that fear, really, with regards to turning into.
But there's going to be.
Yeah, I know there is.
I know. But there's going to be.
Yeah.
But I think we're coming from like a different community than World of Warcraft. I think Guild Wars 2 has for so long been a game that's been about being a nice community and trying to help each other, that I don't think that it's like just gonna magically emerge into that toxic community, right? I just think that like people have to stop measuring Guild Wars 2 by World of Warcraft standards, basically. Like, just because something was likely to happen in World of Warcraft that you might, I don't know. I don't know how it is in World of Warcraft, but if people made that experience that in World of Warcraft there was this basically asshole elite that basically discriminated against everybody who's low DPS, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that Guild Wars 2 is going to turn out that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. So, I think that kind of rounds that topic off as well, right? We're just getting through it, man. But, yeah, I mean, okay, so, I don't know. So, how do you think that... Okay, so, Zorric, how do you think that... what do you... I don't know, dude. Like, come on, he is our advocate. He is the emissary. He's the ambassador between the two communities, man. He's going to help us. How do you think that we can make... it more apparent and more palatable to the more casual, the non-raider, the person who's just thinking about getting to raids or just sees this stuff? How can we make that more palatable to the community and not have this kind of pushback, this negative response, right? Like, what's necessary to make that happen? Because I actually think if there are clear steps, I genuinely think that people like SC are going to do that because they want to help people. They really do, I think.
I think there's a lot of steps there already. It's not like there's usually a disclaimer even with benchmarks but again, when it's a game of telephone, so someone posts something online, someone reads something, tells their friend gets in a game and they put it up in map chat the way they want to say it. And so it's this animosity that can build, or if you catch that hearsay from somewhere else inside of a Discord and you want to talk about it, a lot of times people who aren't in that community, they don't get the everybody wants to hear the bad news. So when it finally gets to you, it's not like the actual thing. When Snow Crows has a disclaimer saying, hey, you don't have to run this, don't be a jerk about it type thing. So it's not set in stone, but people aren't going to tell people that. They're going to say, Snow Crows says you have to run this. What do you think about that? ArenaNet's trying to make you play Snow Crow's builds. And so when they hear that and they get it into the community, I feel like a lot of times that's what people pick up. So it's important that the community, when they're telling people things, it isn't obscured or changed in a way that when the common casual player hears it, that it's negative, because that's not what a benchmark is. It's not a negative thing. This is a positive thing for the community. You know where your limits are. And then when it's no different. It's no different in the casual side. If we're talking a farming route, and because this is what I know, this is what I do heavily, if you hit muscle nodes, you're not going to get a freshwater pearl every time. And so that's going to separate the crowd. Some people want results immediately, and other people are willing to go and hit the muscles over and over in the route. And so when I tell people you can make 100 gold in a day, and they're like, oh, in like 12 hours? No, much less hours than that. Like you're talking 4 hours a day for a week, I've had streams where I've made 160 gold and people don't believe me. So as casuals, it's this idea that they can't touch the limit. It's this idea that it can't be reached. The door isn't open. And so when we talk about like Nike's builds that, are simple, and even though Roca doesn't like it because we're talking 3 less buttons here, it's a step in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction because we get people in the door. But again, those three buttons, Roca, are the difference between getting completely out of my box and getting just a little bit out of my box. And so that's what's going to open up casuals to be more receptive to the raid community. They go, hey, we're looking for this, this soul beast build, instead of looking for the Snow Crow's benchmark, because then it is no longer with the label and a title of what they heard about Snow Crows. It's now more obscure. They don't know where it came from, but it works. And so casual people are going to tend to go towards that. So if someone can't beat something in the game, not even in raids or fractals or anything like that, when they hear this build can beat this boss in the game and they're having a problem with it, and it's only hitting 2 buttons instead of 12, they're more than likely going to take that route. So there's no reason to shut that door. Again, options. So if we can get things like this to move, I think the raid community will pull in more people that are actually not toxic, and then they start going, oh, this actually isn't so bad. This isn't so bad. And so it's just like hitting a farm route. When you get your first freshwater pearl and see it sells for 6 gold up on the trading post, and you get 3 of them in a day, and before you couldn't even make over the daily 2 gold plus whatever you sold, and finally you're making 18, 30, 40 gold, you start to believe. And so you start to do it more, and you start to enjoy it more, and you get into this place where your box sort of gets bigger, you start accepting more things, you see somebody else's route, you want to check it out, and you just fall for it. See, you're toxic elitist raids, I'm toxic elitist farming. I go look up routes, I compare, I look at them, and I see what money comes out of this. And so at the end of the day, I'm toxic elitist just in a different way, but that's just because I think the door's closed over here and my box isn't going to take it. So
I think, you got a very good point. I mean, I think we're all agreed that probably accessible builds for people who aren't very good at raids yet is a good idea for pugs and getting them into the game. Because, I'm going to relate it not to freshwater pearls. I'm going to relate it to skiing. I lived in the east of North America, and there aren't very big mountains in the east. So, I ski, do the black diamonds, double black diamonds all the time when I was younger. It's pretty easy because the mountains aren't so impressive. Then I go out west, and I'm relating this to raids as opposed to PvE. You go out west and you go down this ridiculous trail that's a double black diamond there, but it's 10 times harder than something out east. At least I still have the skis. I'm not doing it without. I'm able to go there, and you learn from experience. And if you're able to go into a raid with a build because you're not getting kicked out first, or you're just not stopped before going there by your own insecurities, you'll start to learn the raid, and you'll get good because it's a trial by fire with the raid mechanics. But you'll learn those things, and you'll get good at those mechanics because you're actually trying them, and eventually maybe you'll do a harder build. I don't know, but it's good for people who want to learn how to raid.
It's good for people who want to get well-rounded in the game as well. Especially achievement hunters, they have to play every aspect of the game. I feel like some of them, especially talking to the higher ones, 35K plus, they have to get into raids. There's a lot of AP sitting inside of there. Yeah, you can buy it. Yeah, whatever. But it's not only that. Anytime you play another mode in the game or something that's tougher, it prepares you for what ANET's bringing next. It prepares you for something you haven't encountered. But if you know what combos are from World versus World and you go into PvP, you can use that to your advantage. But you learned it from somewhere else. Raids do the same thing. They prepare us for world bosses. They prepare us for these new story modes when you're playing by yourself. So raids, a lot of those mechanics are seeping into the game, and my fear is casual players don't have the time or don't see that ability to get in. So when this stuff hits them, it's weird, because that's why Snow Crows gets a bad rep, because they're not doing raids. Because if they were in raids and saw these mechanics, then they went and did the newest episode, they would see some of the stuff like, oh, there's mechanics that are more than just hit the boss. And so when you do those mechanics, you're already ready for it, you're ready to go. And so when they feel like their build's falling apart or whatever, the game's getting harder, it's not because the game's actually getting harder. ArenaNet's just sort of seeping some of that raid mechanic mentality into the rest of the game because it's fun. High-end players love doing it, so why wouldn't they give it to the rest of the community in a way it's much simpler? Of course, it's dumbed down in a sense, but it can be very hard. Some people haven't beat the story episode because they can't get past the robot, and that's why they have those spell saves, right, where they res you and res you and res you, and people don't like that. I don't like that. But at the end of the day, if I did raids, I assure you I would have been a better player, even if it's a crap build, getting in there, seeing some of those mechanics firsthand. And I see it everywhere in the game. The previous episode with the Lonnie or whatever her name is, and she's just wrecking people. I'm just like, don't stand in the circles and don't beat up her golem, because once you get past that stage, the golem's gone, and that's it. And then they don't experience that. And the only reason I know that mechanic was there is because I watch people like MightyTeapot, doing a raid boss, and then they beat it, and I noticed that the add-ons just sort of just went away. And if you don't get to experience that in your game, you're not going to have that. So casuals are losing out on that because they think this raid community is the toxic entity it is, when really we just haven't opened the door wide enough and said, hey, look, yeah, this guy over here, he's an asshole, but we'll take you in. We'll take you in. And I'm hoping we can open that door so, we can take in more people. And eventually people like me who are just stuck in their box will just be like, all right, guild, we're going to go raid. And we're going to get this right because Nike cheated the system. Yeah, Roca doesn't like it, but we're going to do it because we can get it done. And it'll make them better players. And then, who knows? When time Wing 6 comes out, maybe we'll see a huge influx of players going in, and raids aren't seen as this wow entity that a lot of people compare it to. Instead, it's like, man, Guild Wars 2 raids, they're the top-end content, but you can do it. Anyone can do it. But as of right now, it just doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like anyone can do it. But ArenaNet doesn't need to change the mechanics either. We as players just have to get the opportunity to learn them. And so
one thing too is, like, back when we had the ability to inspect people's gear, like, I think it was so beneficial because
finally I could just walk around and flame people. Finally, I had a reason to break that ice and
I
whisper
didn't flame them in public. I would flame them on Discord. Like, I take a screenshot of the
that's
horrible things I've seen. But like the 5K DPS Weaver, that's like the meme of like the typical bad pug. I guarantee you that guy doesn't have 6 scholar runes. Guarantee you, I will bet any amount of money he has like 4 different runes. And I bet he's got like a rare fucking back piece.
Hold on a second, though. That's like an extra.
He's got like Chrysocolla orb exotic earrings. Like, guarantee you, the guy's got a trash build. And it's not even like, it's not like the difference between running a thoughtful Soul Beast build versus running like another thoughtful but easier Soul Beast build. It's the difference between running like a thoughtful build and a build where negative thought went into it, like where you actually had to turn your brain off for a little bit to equip that gear. Like
we have got to the point where we have to be thankful that people are that invested that they'll look up the double shortbow Subways build too.
Like
I have to be thankful for that shit.
A person who's willing to go so far that they're willing to equip a thoughtful build, like, that's a huge step. Like,
well, no, okay. In fairness, okay. Let's think about this from a completely casual player's perspective, right? Why would you think that you need to have a high DPS build to do raids? If you knew nothing about raids, why would you think that?
You can even take
the enrage timer.
There's a timer,
make
yeah.
you think that, yeah.
But you don't. You can't.
If you didn't know any better.
If you literally didn't know any, you go into raids. You have never raided, or done any kind of PvE content, okay, or anything more than just casual memes, you go into raids, okay, and you hit the boss, okay, and yeah, I guess you would eventually realize, like, we need to do more damage here. We have problems. We need damage, okay. So then you go off and then I guess you would have to go off and do that, right? Because you do see people running some kind of weird shit, and when you go in a pug raid, you kind of think, what is this guy running? And I've experienced this. I played with some players who weren't PvEers on NA one time, and they were running very weird builds and did not much damage. We did manage to kill them. We had some friends to help them out, but. It's kind of weird, right? Like, why not? Why would you not want to make it easy for yourself? You know, I mean, yes, it is indeed true. You can probably do raids on a carrion longbow ranger. You know that you probably can. You know, I haven't tried it. You probably can though. But why would you do that? I mean, why would you not? Why would you not make it easy on yourself and get a proper build and get that damage?
The first week of the game was brand new. No one knew anything. I was playing Greatsword Warrior then, and there was a trait, bleed on crit. So in my mind, I thought, well, since I have some bleeding damage in my build, I should have some amount of Condi damage gear. Like, that was like my thought process. It was like the terrible, most incorrect, wrong thought process. But I had this dumb idea that I should have some Condi damage in my build because I was making bleeds on crit.
How bad of an idea would it be? They have it in PvP. If build templates come out, how bad of an idea would it be in like the Aerodrome? They had pre-made builds for raids.
Wait, now they don't even just retweet it.
Oh, that would be toxic as hell.
This is so weird.
That would be so toxic.
I think we had this description. I had this conversation just a few days ago. I'm getting some weird deja vu. We were talking about having if you get into raids or you get into we talked about World vs. It was about World vs. World. We said, what if you went into World vs. World and you had like free gear basically, right? And I was thinking, that's a good idea. And I kind of, honestly, maybe if you can have like a recommended build for PvE, I think that might be kind of handy, right? Because it's in game, so it's it's in the game. You don't have to go to an outside resource to find it, right?
Yeah, and this wouldn't be for obviously the people who already raid or people who go to other resources already and understand how to make a build. This would be for people who don't know how to make a build. Somebody who thinks carrying longbow ranger is a good idea. Like, just
that sounds more like back when I played Guild Wars 1. I had no idea how to play Guild Wars 1. I just died and died and died and died. But then when finally someone took the second, be like, hey, put this build on and just do this, right? So that's sort of reminiscent of that. That's what was great about templates. They would just give you the code, you click on it, you save it, you put it on, and you would just go, even with your heroes. And it wasn't so much that they weren't helping me. I was asking for the help, sort of, because I was just dying. And they're like, do you want to stop dying? Well, of course, anyone's going to say yeah. And so they would just give me these builds, and suddenly life was easy. And I enjoyed the game a bit more, even more than I did for 2 years. And suddenly it was like this revival of Guild Wars 1 for me for a while, because finally I understood how to play the game, because I didn't understand the builds and stuff like that and things. I had played for 2 years and didn't unequip the rare back piece, and that's what it was. And so finally somebody taught me, this is what you need. And I feel like a lot of players, especially those coming back to the game, still don't quite understand what equipment does what and why it does this and why this number. Like, why ferocity is important with precision. Like, why can't you just have ferocity? Well, you need to actually crit for the damage to happen. So a lot of people don't understand that stuff. And so when we get into templates, this is a way to sort of just be like, this is what I'm running. And if you run it too, you're not just going to die. You're not just going to go in there and just be some guy that's going to get kicked because you can't hit that, that number they're looking for. And now you're going to be hitting that number, and it becomes a challenge.
I just thought of something great. They have the build templates with the recommended builds. They have like a collection quest line that gives you AP, and at the end of it, you get a box with the exotic gear to make all the builds.
And if the collection quest line, what if the collection quest line also like explain the build as you go too?
Right, you do it on Thief. You get the Thief Raiders box, and it's a box of exotic gear with the recommended builds, then people there's no excuse at that point for raiding at least exotics with the right build.
That is pretty smart. Because it could function like a tutorial, right? And it could, as soon as you go into the aerodrome, right, it could immediately flash up on your screen. If you've never been there before, it could say, "Hey, let me hook you up. Okay, we're gonna give you a build. We're gonna give you this."
One of the collection things is you practice dodging. They make you dodge a series of AOE's, and you don't get the collection completed till you can dodge the AOE's.
The only problem is
so good.
Balance patches happen.
But they'd have to keep up. The only trouble would be that they would have to update it, right? They would have to. They would have to continuously update it, and that would be tricky.
That's extra work. And
it would be a lot of work. Also, another thing that is apparently an issue is break bars in this game.
Yeah, make that one of the items.
We have to talk about CC as well, because apparently most of the community doesn't really know what CC is or what break bars are, which is kind of. Well, I mean, I guess it's never explicitly explained, right? But still.
No, it's sort of HOT got introduced and not really explained properly.
A lot of people don't know pull, push, and why those hit harder, or why MOA does more, or Basilisk Venom, what stun is, and why that hits the CC bar versus chill or cripple or mobilize is much slower, while the other ones are going to hit a bunch at one time. And so
time for a new player experience, guys.
A lot of people bash that, but it was successful.
Even now, you shouldn't have to go to the wiki to see how much break bar damage a CC skill does.
Yeah.
That should be on the tooltip.
That's not a bad idea.
Why are those not on the tooltip?
Well,
just one little line.
Surely you should also be able to see the actual value for a break bar then as well, right, in the game.
Yeah. And it should be on the logs, so you can see which weaver in your group is greeting and not.
Yeah, it's the slacker.
Not CCing.
Find out who's the slacker.
Hint: it's Contam. I'll just tell you right now.
Wow. Exposed. Yeah. So all that stuff would be. I think those are really great ideas, guys. Those are some seriously great ideas. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I mean, Arena are a bit funny about the HP values and the break bar values, because even though Arc can see them, you're just not allowed to. They say, can't do that. But when I say Arc can see them, it has the ability to see them. But I don't think it can actually see break bar
how much
numbers,
damage
right?
people do. No.
Yeah. So it can't see that, but I'm sure they could. I'm sure ArenaNet could figure it out if they wanted to. But again, that would be a fair amount of work.
One thing that Arc could do, and I was talking to someone about this, it knows your rotation, so you can have a blue bar run. You know how they have the DPS thing where the DPS spikes at first and then goes down, it's the flow, the sideways flow chart of the DPS. You could have whenever people use a CC skill, even if there's not a break bar up, it makes a little blue spike where they use a CC skill. So obviously, when you see a huge blue spike of everyone in the group using their CC skills, there was a break bar happening then. So it'd be easy to identify. And then you could look in the logs at least and see who wasn't using theirs at that time.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
Problem is, none of the things are being actively developed. DPS reports not being actively developed anymore.
Because there's no
Raid
third
party stuff has fallen off.
Raid feels bad, man. Feels bad, man. Which is a bit of a shame.
Again, once Radar switches over to being completely toxic, then that'll be the way to go.
Yeah, that'll be the way to go. But yeah. I think that kind of rounds it off. I think, guys.
I agree.
What a great show! Wow,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think that'll do now, guys. And we do not leave, my friends. Tea time is over. But seriously, guys, you're not going to want to go. For a start, I'm going to explain a little bit about stuff. For a start, we're going to chill a little bit, guys. But then we're going to show the video, okay? The Raid Tournament hype video, where we're going to announce the guilds, okay? But after that, do not leave, because we have an important host, guys, okay? You know how I was talking about a source, to talk about the rank 55 stuff? We're not talking about on this show. We're not going to throw shit. We're not doing that. come and do that in my stream tomorrow or something, all right, boys?
Well, we do it for every other time there's drama.
Yeah, well, no, but okay, listen. We don't have the facts,
$400.
and we're going to go straight to the source for the facts, guys, because after this tea time, we're hosting Zan, okay? And he is going to explain, okay? He's going to explain.
Self-exposing.
He's going to expose himself.
Whoa. TOS violation.
TOS violation.
Yeah. Okay. So we're not even going there. But I want to thank our guests. And first up, it is AngryZorric, an awesome guest, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Didn't feel the toxicity too much. It was it was fun. You are an excellent guest, my friend. I think you've helped us give an awesome show today for people. So tell us about what you're up to these days on your internet corner.
I'm right here on Twitch. I do streams, just casual stuff. If you want to see casual farms, I do a lot of farming. We're giving away a Twilight tonight. Just bought an Eternity off the trading post. Just that's the things I do. I do a lot of farming. We're doing mapping right now. So you can also find me on YouTube, and I do a lot of Black Lion chest openings, see what those are like, and those have been horrendous. That's last go, but oh well. And then you can always find me on Twitter. You can come over to the stream whenever you want. You got questions, I'll answer them. So there you go.
For your giveaway, Eternity, is it just going to anybody, or like, would you give it to me, or?
No. So it was a Twilight. That's going to be ending here soon. So there was a Twilight in my Discord, and every month I give away something. So this will be the third Legendary I'm giving away. So easy peasy.
Nice.
Okay, and then let's see. Moving up a tiny little bit, managed to get Skype working in the end. It is one of the premier toxic players in the community. It is Nike DNT. What are you up to these days?
Let's see. I stream Zwift 2 to 3 days a week. It's pretty much the best game there is.
You have to go see him stream Zwift.
Yeah, it's fun.
Amazing. He has an amazing outfit.
We burn some calories. It's fun. And then do some Guild Wars 2 stuff on the side. Personally, I quit my job on Friday. It was my last day, so I'm starting a new career soon. Yeah, that's gonna be good. Check out my Twitch stream on Monday. I'll be getting my Doom bench. I'll be hitting my 2,000 relic mark. So we're gonna have a bench stream on Monday. Be sure to be there for that. And then we're gonna do the Shaq Garrett and have the bench on top of New Hawk Lane. As we do. And then go to my YouTube channel for, hijinks. There's all sorts of fun stuff there. So that's basically it.
All right. Be sure to check out that, guys. And then here we have the moderator of the debate.
I kind of let people go over time.
It is World of Enders.
Hey, everybody. Still doing Boots Bad builds. I have 3 left. And I have 0 inspiration for them, so I'm waiting for Tuesday's balance patch and hoping to get some. Stay tuned. And that's about it.
Okay, so be sure to watch that if you want some maybe less than meta builds with Mad King runes. That's all good there. And then finally, the dark horse of toxicity. It is Roca in the top right-hand corner, bringing the elitism to tea time. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's right. Guys, if you want to learn how to rate without giving up all your self-respect on playing double short bow zombies, come to my stream and I'll show you how easy it is to get into raids without having to, throw away that self-esteem, Wow. I think Nike getting a bench is crazy. We've been doing that shit for 2 months, boys. So, it's gonna be good. I mean, just hang out. Obviously, I'm not as toxic as I'm coming off right now, but, come chill out. We're having fun and raiding.
Awesome. So the links are in the chat, guys, and below the stream as well. Be sure to check these guys out. Enjoy that stuff. Oh, still says Rockers and Lucky Noobs. Whoops. Okay. Whoops. Okay.
Wait, let me just quickly check what guild I'm in. Wait, !SC. Does that still work?
Oh,
I am also still
Pot's broken.
I need to fix. Okay, we need to fix this ball a little bit, guys. You're in all the guilds, But anyway, if you guys did enjoy this stream, then be sure to follow it, guys. We've got Tea Time every weekend. We got a bunch of other stuff as well. We got raids, we got PvP, we got World Bus as well. We got it all. We got all the content here in one place, boys. And hopefully you enjoy the stream, guys. Be sure to hit a follow. Follow me on Twitter as well. Not MMOWinks. Don't follow that garbage, okay? And be sure to check out all these guys on the show today. And yeah, subscribe to me on Twitch for the emotes. Come on, let me chill, guys. Subscribe to everyone else here as well. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all that good stuff. And yeah, we are gonna, well, I mean, I am now going to show the Raid Tournament hype video. Hopefully you guys like that. It's, you know, a little bit of a meme. And then we will be going over to say hello to Zan in a little bit. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed the stream. We're gonna watch this video now, and then we will see you guys later. So thanks for watching, guys, and you guys have, well, enjoy the rest of the content of this evening. Thanks, guys.